Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. We are here on another uh, episode of Gina and Friends. And today we have Francesca.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me back.
Yay.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yes, yes. And so tell us about the virtue that you shared this morning.
So, I share the virtue of accountability because it resonates with me quite a bit, and especially today because it's payroll.
Yeah.
So, we really have to be accountable with what we do since we process, like payroll for everybody in the company. And we want to make sure that everybody is taken care of.
So, the virtue for this week is accountability. Ooh. Accountability is the willingness to stand in responsibility for every choice. It is acting with integrity, doing what we say we will do. When we make a mistake, we do not seek to hide it or avoid it. We have the courage to face it willingly. We are open to the lessons it can bring and ready to make amends. With accountability, people can rely on us because we are answerable for our actions. We appreciate both the good when we have done and the good to be gleaned from the choices that do not turn out right. Okay. We are guided by our highest standards.
Accountability might have so many different ways, right, that you can show it. One is taking ownership and again accountability of the decision, the outcomes of the decision that you make, the actions that you take. But I have to say that what Katie shared this morning regarding, being accountable when you decide to help out, right? Or like to volunteer and be there. And if something happens, to communicate in a timely manner because people that are there, they're counting on you. And just because you're volunteering, that doesn't mean that that is something that you shouldn't be taking accountability of, right? And also, show accountability when nobody's looking. You hold yourself accountable to begin with, and then hold others accountable too. But yeah, it's one of our tools in a cooperative mode, and it's a powerful one because again, what we tend to see, it's a lot of deflecting where people are shifting blame or not wanting to take accountability or trying to get out of, taking accountability with simply asking others to make decisions for them so that it's easy if something goes wrong to say, no, I didn't do it. I was told to do it this way instead of taking the ownership of making that decision and then taking accountability of the results.
I think, being in management or leadership for such a long time, I see that the one obstacle that, we often have what is thinking like, okay, if I'm accountable to this, right? And I'm accountable to my mistakes, let's say, something's bad gonna happen to me, right? Because we're not trusting the whole, not the process, but yeah, the process of relationships, right? So if you're admitting to not being accountable or you failed at being accountable, you missed a deadline, right? And it builds a domino effect. So then you're going, well, I'm gonna deflect, I'm gonna redirect, I'm gonna, not be accountable. But the ownership part, makes it so, you take ownership, right? So therefore, you become accountable, and people can trust you and rely on you, right? But are you ever going to be perfect on accountability? No, I've failed, many times on accountability, not intentionally, because things happen, and then you're moving a date. Can I, and then I try to figure out the on how it's being received. But after a while, I've read my emails, or I've kind of, you know, went back to what I said, I'm like, oh my God, now I'm making excuses. You know, and I don't know if you've ever heard people say, no, 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 it's not an excuse, but it's an explanation and that's because either they've missed being accountable, and most times it's unintentional, right? And like you mentioned volunteering, you don't have you're not paying them, right? So it's really being accountable to yourself and something bigger, right?
There's a part of feeling judged when we don't take accountability. There's that fear that people might think that we are not trustworthy, that we're incompetent,
yeah.
like we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what we're talking about, things like that. And so that fear might paralyze certain individuals where they deflect and they go like, oh,
Yeah.
if I take accountability of this mistake, what are they going to be thinking of me?
Yeah.
And putting so much on others, right? And to determine who you are as an individual, not even like the value that you bring, but like who you are as a person. And so for me, I think when it comes to work, it's a little easier because there are expectations that are in place.
That's right.
And if those expectations are not met, at least for what we do, it makes it a little easier to address certain, like shortcomings and stuff. But when I tie it back to volunteering, like sometimes people think, oh, I'm just going to sign up for this, and then they don't show up as if it's not a big deal. Oh, I'm just volunteering, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're letting down people that were counting on you. You're letting down the organizations that was counting on you being there and help out. And you're letting yourself down in a way because now you're creating excuses for yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of taking accountability and ownership of saying, I messed up. I didn't realize that maybe I overbooked myself, or, like even sometimes you sign up for things and then you realize that you might not feel, so committed. And just admitting that part also to yourself, it becomes a little difficult. So I think accountability really is kind of like deep, right? It goes deeper than just I'm gonna hold you accountable, towards certain expectations. Yes, that's the easy part, but it's holding ourselves accountable to maybe higher standards or a higher purpose, like you mentioned. So so we need to be a little more accountable.
Yeah, I think like you're right, Francesca. Sometimes we take accountability like just the surface. We're thinking, okay, do what you say you're gonna do and do it. But it's really deeper than that, right? Especially if you have, different levels of your relationship with that person, right? And so, anyway,
For me, I'm thinking about when I was in college, every semester, my dad would ask us to write down the classes that we signed up for. And then he would check throughout the semester if they were the same classes that we were still taking. And if they weren't, he would put a day, next to the class, and it would say, I don't know, change your mind on this day, change your mind on this day, add this class, drop this class, and he had all these things. And at the beginning, I was like, it's just a waste of time. Why are you doing this? We're gonna just change our minds. And he was like, no, I just put it down on paper. So at the end of the semester, it would go back and say, let's see how many times you change your mind on this. But it was like to teach us basically to take accountability of the decision that we made,
That's right.
The actions that we took. And was he a little bit to the extreme? Maybe. But in his mind, it was a gentle way to say, okay, so what can you learn from this? And maybe be a little more mindful in the future when you make certain decisions. And maybe sometimes you have to live with the consequences
That's
of
right.
those decisions. There's not always a way out to say, oh, I'm just going to drop this class and pick something else
That's right.
instead, right? No. And so in life, you have to make choices. We
Mhm.
make choices every day, every moment of the day. So just be confident, take ownership, because that allows also to find that peace, inner peace, to say, I can live with myself. Um, in Italy, there's a saying that says that lies have really short legs, meaning that, they can't go that very far. And sooner or later, people will find out that you lied, but definitely think about how much you have to keep remembering if you're not honest. Every lie that you fabricate is going to get more lies, involved to keep that lie, alive. And then at some point you forget. And so why go in that route and risking to really compromise your integrity too as a person,
That's right.
when you can be, like accountable, and you can hold yourself accountable. I, don't appreciate when there are other people that would get other people or hold other people accountable, but they don't hold themselves accountable. It's almost like they put themselves on a completely different level. It's like to say, you all have to follow these guidelines. I don't have to. I just have to tell you that you have to do that, right? So sometimes I don't know. Like I said, it's definitely deeper than just, like, okay, you don't follow the rules and there's gonna be consequences.
Be held
and
accountable.
you're gonna be held accountable. But that's, sometimes it's the easy part.
For sure. But I like what you said about being accountable even if no one's looking, because really it's easy to be accountable to someone outside of yourself, right? Because there may or may not be consequences. Most times there is. But then to yourself, you can actually not be accountable to yourself, and it probably won't be a big deal, right? Um, like I'm on this intermittent fasting, right? Now it's so much. I was being accountable to Miss Carol, which probably was easy for me for the first 21 days, because I could, she was like my Jiminy Cricket. Don't eat that, don't eat that. But then after I raised the board, and now it's me. Now I'm accountable to myself. I'm going to keep on going because this is doing really well. But I can easily say, hey, I'm going to eat at 9 o'clock. And that's just me that knows it. I'm not going to be. And the consequences for me being not accountable to myself and to what I say I'm going to do, and people might think differently, but then I'm, going, well, not a big deal, right? And I'm learning through that, because it's hard for me to go inside, like inside. Does that make sense? Like things that affect me, the internal side. I'm great at, you know, for you and you, Aaron, and everybody, Gina and friends. I'm good, but then I'm learning, to do that back to me, right? And accountability is one of those.
Like if you create, like we create an environment where we feel safe, right? Psychologically safe, taking accountability, it will come naturally.
That's right.
You're not gonna fear that there's gonna be repercussions towards you. But that's also like in a family, like it's not just work, even outside, right? If you have a safe environment, you will be taking accountability. You will be taking ownership of what you do, and it will feel like really organic, something really organic, where you don't feel like you're working so hard and you have to make this huge effort to, like to get to the point to say, yeah, I made a mistake, I'm messed up really big time, I'm so sorry. Right? Instead of like, well, Gina told me to do it, so
Yeah.
it's not me.
Yeah.
I'm just executing what, like I've been told to do, instead of, oh, I thought about this, I thought about the process, I carried it out and it didn't work out. Right? So in an environment where you feel psychologically safe, it comes organically. Instead, in an environment where you don't feel safe, you're afraid of you losing your job, or you place too much onto others what others might think of you, or how the image that you have in others' eyes might change because of that. Then every single decision that you're going to be making is going to come from a completely different place. So instead of coming from a place of acceptance and being part of the bigger purpose, is going to come from a place of, oh, I don't want to be judged, or I don't want people to think of me differently, or my image, might not be, it might be tarnished and things like that. So it's what is at the real core of what we do, right? Is going to be diminished by what others might think of me, right? And it's not always about you or me. So, yeah, and we need to take accountability, ownership of that. That as much as we would love the world to revolve around us, we do revolve around other people's too.
All the worlds collide.
That's right.
Yeah. But I think that's the cooperative mode is a gift, right? And it provides a psychological safe place, because we are taught in the beginning about what they are, what the elements are, and what kind of a guideline of when to use it, and how to use it, right? So when in Innisfree Hotels, right, we're taught that. That's part of our indoctrination to the Innisfree culture. So it's expected. Those words, like giving strokes and checking out paranoid fantasies, accountability, confidentiality, those are words that we know, right? That we should know, and the elements that surround it. So then we get that out of the way. We know what is expected, and then that's how we build deeper relationships, and we become more
Connected.
connected, because that's really what it is. It's to connect with each other. People always, it's a relationship tool. It's how we be with each other, right? How am I going to, figure this out with Francesca? How am I going to share my resentment with her? Well, it tells you how to do it. And when I say, may I share my resentment with you? She could say yes, and she knows what's going to happen. Or she could say, no, not right now. I know what's going to happen. Okay, can we maybe revisit another time? Absolutely, right? Because it's got to be safe for her. It's got to be safe for me. So I like that. I like that, we're creating this environment where we can talk about virtues, tie it into our cooperative mode, and then,
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be just at work. It can be outside of work
yeah,
too.
for sure, for sure.
I definitely tend to use it with my poor sisters that become my test subjects for this. I might have to adjust the verbiage a little bit, because
Yeah.
sometimes they're looking at me, go like, what is that again? But, so I have to, explain, I'm learning how to be with you, right? You go like, Okay.
I
So
do it
they're
with my
learning
kids.
too. So
I do it with my kids. I'm like, I'll say, Azure, did you share your resentment with your brother? He doesn't want to listen to it, Mom. I go, okay, you need to revisit. He doesn't want to revisit it, Mom. I go, okay, just give him time and I will talk to him.
Accountability.
Accountability, right? Because we all agreed that there's certain elements of the cooperative mode that we will kind of practice, right? Check in, sharing resentments, because this is always obstacles to a better relationship, a much improved relationship where, we can really get to know each other, pushing all of these aside. So can you imagine accountability is like, oh, every time I think about accountability, I'm thinking accounting,
Accounting.
black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's the purpose of that, right? They're really evaluating and holding you to account, so, but it really isn't just black and white, is it?
well, it has to do with people, and as people, we're not really two-dimensional.
Yeah.
You're multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
So just to say it's either this or this, well,
Yeah.
that would be really easy,
That's
but it's
true.
not because we have so many different layers to us, to who we are as people.
Yeah.
So even simple things like accountability, you think you like, well, if you do this, you're good. If you don't do this, you're not good.
Yeah.
It goes deeper, like why did you make that decision and why did you feel certain way about the decision that you make, that you made. So yeah, like I said, it's when you look at it on the surface, it's very black and white. You take accountability of what you do or you don't do,
That's
and you hold yourself and others accountable. But at the same time, on a deeper level, it's maybe looking inward to say, why did I make that decision, and why did I not take ownership of, like the steps of the process that I decided to put in place, because like the results were not what we were hoping. And so just looking it from, and that's where we should be holding ourselves accountable, right? When others are not looking or telling us, oh, you need to take accountability on that.
right.
That's the easy part. It's just like, when you have to look in the mirror and say, well, let's have this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that this individual has really made accountability part of his everyday life, not just the work, but also at home, in his private life, or the relationship that he establishes with others. And he has been with us for quite some time, Gina,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Today makes 30 years. And we're talking about Jason Nicholson.
Woohoo, Jason!
Yeah. So yeah, when I think of accountability, I think of Jason,
Yeah.
amongst other people. But Jason, actually I've seen him, like grow up in Innisfree, and he's held so many different roles, and currently he's a senior VP of business development and asset management, and he not only is he accountable, but he holds you accountable. And if you miss being accountable, I want to say misfire or miss, he will let you know at that moment. He doesn't let it linger, right? He lets you know, Gina, you told me you were going to have this today by end of day, and it wasn't there, and you didn't, no communication. He always told me, communicate. Let me know what your challenges are, or be honest about whether you can meet that deadline or not, right? So he gives you that environment to succeed in being accountable, but when you're not, he's also gonna, you know, hold you accountable and say, okay, what happened here? You
In
know?
the sense that he
Yeah,
doesn't allow you to make excuses
yeah,
for yourself
yeah,
and for your
Yeah.
work. So
yeah. So my gosh, what 30 years of just boy, he's got a lot of stories to tell for sure.
yeah,
My gosh, most of his life was spent at Innisfree Hotels. That's just, you know, it just, can you imagine that?
Mm.
You know, he grew up.
I cannot.
Yeah, he grew
It's like
up.
it's-
He
yeah.
got probably married. He got, you know, he had children.
Yeah.
You know, his children are grown and just a lot, you know. And yeah, I admire his sense of discipline, and he really
And duty.
yeah,
I
and
think it's
duty,
like a
yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah. So, wow,
Well, Jason, happy 30th anniversary.
Yes.
We're really proud of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah,
And thank you for everything that you've done and to build Innisfree to what it is today. And we're really, I particularly looking forward to see what's in the near future.
okay. Thank you so much, Francesca. We always enjoy you being with us, and everyone, happy spring. Aloha. Bye.